Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. You know, you have seen my vegetable garden a gazillion times, but I rarely show you the rest of our garden, and I thought that's what I would do today for a nice change of pace. My husband Bill and I live in Spokane, Washington, which is about 300 miles east of Seattle, and our hardiness zone here ranges from 5B to 6A. So let's walk through the landscape and I'll show you what we've been doing over the years. I also want to clarify something very important, and that is when we bought this piece of property, the only thing that was growing on it was one ponderosa pine tree about this tall, and that was it. So everything you see here is what we have been doing over the years. So this is our backyard, and we initially started out with turf grass, and we had so many problems with it. It would die out every year after about a month of looking green and glorious. And we decided that the reason it wasn't growing well is because when the house was built and they excavated for the basement, they probably put a bunch of hard pan soil, if you can call it that, on the surface of the ground out here, and it just didn't have a whole lot of fertility to it. So a few years after that, we decided to take the turf out, and then what we did is we created two island beds. This is the small island bed that you're looking at. The anchor of this bed is a hawthorn tree, and boy, did it get battered a few winters ago, and it lost a lot of branches. So I'm trying to slowly but surely get a balance of branches, and it does seem to be doing a lot better. So slow but sure. Let me show you some of the things that are growing in this bed. And I have to tell you, this has been a glorious spring. The bulbs have been absolutely amazing throughout our whole landscape, so I'll be sure to highlight some of them. These little pink flowers are from a phlox plant. You can see we have a ton of grape hyacinths, but boy, have they been pretty this year. That's a miniature daffodil called Minerva. These bright leaf plants are coral bells. You can see some yellow triumph tulips in the middle there. And let me take you to the other end so you can see a very special tulip. Look at these little beauties. So these are a species tulip. I planted them just a few years ago. It's Lady Jane. You can see they've got the pink on the undersides of every other petal. And I think those are just glorious. You know, I've really been getting into planting species tulips instead of the types that most people tend to grow, because I like to see something a little bit different. And I've actually been much happier with the species tulips. So it's probably hard to tell, but this is our blueberry bed. But look at all of the wonderful daffodils. So I've got King Alfreds in there and Ice Follies, and they have just gone nuts. The frustrating thing is, as we're starting to have even warmer days, I can tell they're just about finished blooming. I'm going to be so sad when they're gone. Now, if you're looking for something to really brighten up your garden, this is certainly something that will do the trick. This is Euphorbia polychroma, or cushion spurge, and these are actually bracts rather than flowers. The thing about this cushion spurge is that they do spread readily, so I really have to stay on top of them so that they don't take over the whole garden. But one of the things that's cool is these beautiful Dwarf Iris have just started blooming, literally today, and they will make such a wonderful contrast between the two plants. You can see these orange crown imperial fritillaries are in bloom right now, so those are certainly a conversation starter. When we were laying out our backyard, at least the area that's closest to the house, we decided to define it by running a long bed across the back of it. And I've got all kinds of perennials and some shrubs in here. The trees are crabapple trees that the birds love. And it really makes for a nice definition of the main part of our backyard. And this is the large island where we have native plants, perennials, a hydrangea, bulbs, a little bit of everything. And quite a few things are just starting to leaf out, so it looks a little barren at this point. I also wanted to mention that we used steel edging to define the edges of the two island beds and the back bed. And it really looks sharp. So I'm really glad we took the time to do that. Now I like to call this the rose garden, but there's so much more than roses in it. I've got a couple of hydrangeas. I've got a wonderful shrub called Calycanthus Aphrodite sweet shrub. It is amazing, and I will definitely have to show it to you when it's all leafed out and blooming its gorgeous red flowers. I've got all kinds of tulips in here. You can see some are just fading. I've got a lot of ones that are at the bud stage, and I want to show you this amazing tulip up close. But I've also got roses in here and various types of perennials. These amazing tulips are called Muvota. I saw them at a flower show a few years ago, and I thought I have to have those. So I've got them in various beds, and of course they look pretty stunning next to these grape hyacinths. In this end of the bed, I've got some pretty cool plants. I have a whole bunch of Camis lilies or Camassia that are going to be shooting up some flower spikes pretty soon. More tulips. I've got oriental poppies. I've got some lilies here that are called Forever Susan. I had to get that. I've got bee balm in here and just a whole lot of cool plants. One thing I wanted to point out about the rose garden is that on the north side, which is heading towards our front yard, we've got a rather interesting kind of fence, and I wanted to mention it to you because it might give you an idea. So I was on a garden tour a few years ago and I saw this idea and I thought I have got to copy that. So we bought a wire grid and painted it black, and then we bought 4 individual trellises or arbors and wired them to it. And ordinarily, when these climbing roses and our clematis vines are all growing and blooming, you can't see through it to the front yard. And it just looks so cool. I love these tops. So maybe that'll be an idea for you too. There's the arbor that goes into our vegetable garden, and you'll certainly be seeing that an awful lot in the next few weeks. Now, just to orient you as to where I am, I'm next to the large island bed, and you can see that is the back bed that is defining the immediate part of our backyard. And the reason I'm back here is because I wanted to show you something pretty cool. We have a small pond at the end of the bed, and it's a great place to attract all kinds of birds. So I've got lady's mantle, daylilies, I've got a couple of types of ornamental grasses, and then a few native shrubs in the background. Okay, I'm finally out front, and I just wanted to quickly show you what we have out here. So this bed has been around for ages, although we've expanded it over the years. And generally I grow perennials and annuals in here. I also have peonies, and that's pretty much it. The frustrating thing that happened when we first put in this bed, which was only maybe about 4 feet deep, is that when we had the sprinkler system put in, they hired somebody to hydro seed the lawn, and I was basically trying to stay out of the way while they were doing all of that. And I came out just in time to see the hydro seeder guy shooting the grass seeds across this bed for the whole length of it. And I was polite because I was very young at the time and I didn't know how to stand up for myself, but that has been a problem the whole time because I really fight grass in this bed. And I do my best to weed it a few times each growing season, and it is a beautiful bed when everything is up and growing. So I have done some serious weeding in here over the last week or two, And I have taken out some plants that have been a little bit of thugs. One is the Rudbeckias or Gloriosa daisies. I adore them. We've got tons of them in the other bed that I'm going to show you in a moment. But it was taking over this bed, and so was the bee balm. I still want bee balm because they are great for pollinators, but I've cut back dramatically on how many plants are in this bed. Ugh. Now, just in case you missed it, last year I bought a garden obelisk, or tutor as it's known, from Kinsman Garden Company, and I think it is the coolest thing ever. I grew some vines on it last year. This year I've been hoping to do some cup and saucer vines, but the seeds are germinating terribly. So it might be something different, but I think it's really cool. It anchors this end of the bed and adds a lot of interest to it. Okay, I just showed you this bed. Now I'm standing next to our pollinator garden, which we put in a few years ago. We removed a huge chunk of lawn, and I have put so many kinds of plants in here that attract the pollinators. Lots of native plants especially, lots of flowering plants, and this area of our landscape has been such a joy. So make a pollinator garden one of your goals for this garden season. It doesn't matter how small it is, it will make a difference and help out those pollinators. Now, just to the east of the pollinator garden, you can see that we have a small orchard. We've got 18 trees. Some of them are teeny tiny trees because we recently removed some old trees that just were struggling and not doing well. And the cool thing is that Bill has been teaching himself how to graft fruit trees. So that is a work in progress, and I'll have to report back on that later. Now, just to show that we have come full circle, you'll notice that's where the rose garden is in the backyard and the little arbor fence. How cool is that? I've got all kinds of daffodils that are blooming right now and various perennials. This is the vanilla strawberry hydrangea bush that I show you every now and then, especially in pruning videos, and the pond is that way. I hope you enjoyed this little tour of our landscape. Next week we'll go back to the vegetable garden. Thanks so much for watching today, everybody. Happy gardening.